Blog Talk Radio.
Oh, it's time to get real. Oh, yeah. It's a new experience. Reality, spirituality. Yeah, keep your ears open for this one, man. Reality, spirituality. You got a question for RLN? Reality, spirituality. Yeah, it's time to get some answers, baby. Reality, spirituality. Oh, now we get real. Oh, it's time to get real. Oh, yeah. It's a new experience. Reality, spirituality. Yeah, keep your ears open for this one, man. Reality, spirituality. You got a question for RLN? Reality, spirituality. Yeah, it's time to get some answers, baby. Reality, spirituality. Oh, now we get real. Reality, spirituality. Yeah, it's time to get down. Reality, spirituality. Yeah, you gonna feel good now. Real good. Spirituality. That's what I'm talking about. Time to get real.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Reality Spirituality. I'm your host, Global Happiness Specialist Rebecca L. Norrington. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing the show. Well, we have a great show today. You know, it's interesting. Last week I did the show. It was called, let's see, what can Kim Kardashian teach us about happiness? And the answer was everything. And, you know, I had so many extra listens to that show. I know what's going on now. I'm going to jump on the bandwagon like everybody else. No, I'm actually just joking. But that topic last week brought so many more eyeballs to this and ears to this show. So I'm going to stay on that theme because that is really, that theme, there is something that sells in the media and there's something that doesn't sell. And one of the things that sells is sex. Sex sells. Can't deny it. It does. And I don't know how long it's been selling, but it's maybe since the beginning of time. But it's such a good piece of awareness that all of us can pay attention to in every moment. But let me just start the show by giving a brief introduction. I know you people that's listened for a long time, for years, but just let me, because we have a lot of new people listening to the show now. So let me just give you a brief introduction as a global happiness specialist. Who the hell does she think she is? What does that even mean? When I was younger, I wished for two things. I wanted to live to my potential. You know, when you blow out the candles on your birthday cake or you throw some money into a fountain or a river or a lake and you make a wish, I always wished for the same two things. And it was, number one, to live to my potential. I had no idea what that was going to look like. I had no idea what that was going to feel like. I had no clue as to what that was, but I wanted to live to my potential. And then the second thing I wanted to be happy. And so what I found and what I discovered is the secret, the key, there's no secret, is the secret, but it's not taught, the secret to happiness. And the truth is, happiness is like any other skill. Happiness is a practice skill. That's it. It's a practice skill. Happiness is a practice skill. That's my own quote. And when I say it's a practice skill, that means anybody can practice. Anybody that's committed, anybody that prioritizes happiness, anybody that thinks happiness has value. Now, in the real world, when I say in the real world, where is it there? This is one of the things I was talking about last week in the class. I also teach a class, The Truth About Happiness. And I was telling them that happiness isn't valued. You show me in the mainstream media. You show me where happiness is valued. What I will show you is good acting is valued, athletes are valued, Super Bowl, NBA champions. We're in the middle of the NBA playoffs. Baseball is valued. Acting is valued. A musician is valued. An entertainer is definitely valued. I mean, think about the people that get paid the most. Because what is value? In Maine society, value is what we pay, is how much we pay. Take a look at a car, Rolls Royce. That's a very valuable car. You have to pay a lot of money. But where is happiness? Is happiness valued? Are we getting awards for it? Are we getting accolades? Are we getting a pat on the back? Are we getting extra titles? What are we getting? What are we getting when we practice this skill? What are we getting when we commit to practicing what makes someone happy? Now, scratch that, what makes someone happy. Scratch all of that. Scratch that. Was very, very poorly said. Very poorly said. Let me see if I can get back on track. The bottom line is happiness is not valued in this society. Otherwise, we would be getting awards for it. We have a Nobel Peace Prize, kind of on the same lines. Because let me share my definition of happiness with you. Happiness, for me, means happiness is the ability to be at peace, regardless if I can't get this tickle out of my throat. Hold on a second, audience. I'm going to have to drink some water. Hold on a second. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. Hold on. This is live radio, reality spirituality. Woo! Right. There's just a little feather in the back of my throat, just tickling me. Woo! All right, I'm back. Where was I? Oh, the value. Where is happiness valued in this world? Where? Where is it as an achievement? Where is happiness? I mean, I know they started teaching happiness classes at some of the universities, but where is the overwhelming? Where is my club? Where's the happiness club? Now listen, I'm talking about mainstream. So the topic of today's show is sex, fear, dissatisfaction, and happiness. What do they have in common? The answer right now, happiness doesn't sell. Fear sells. Sex sells. Dissatisfaction sells. And I mean sells as in S-E-L-L-S, not C-E-L-L-S. Sells. Happiness, well, let's see. You're happy, well, that's nice. No, keep it moving. Fear sells. You can tell that fear sells just by, this is a global, I'm looking all over the world because I'm a sports fan. Well, I used to be a sports fan. And everybody, not everybody, but this mask thing is all over the world. Now, I'm not poo-pooing masks. I'm not putting down masks. I'm not making a judgment. I'm saying that the reason for the masks, whether they work or they don't work, whether you think they work, it's because of fear of catching a virus, a disease that could possibly end your life. doesn't have anything to do with the statistics say, because there's a lot of people. Because listen, let me just back up a little bit, and I don't want to get too much on this COVID mask thing, because I realize that everybody's different and everybody has different perspectives, and I totally honor that and I get that. But have you noticed that the media talks about how many cases that we have, as opposed to how many cases that people have had COVID and they get over it? The mainstream is not talking about how many people get COVID, and then they recover from it. No, the focus is on how many cases. And that is just proof of more fear. Fear, the more the cases are rising, Fear is, when I say fear sells, that doesn't even have anything to do with the COVID. It has nothing to do with the pandemic. It has something to do with the truth that fear sells. And fear is permeating this planet. But the problem is, you can't find too much peace. You can't find happiness. Happiness and fear don't live in the same. They don't live in the same zip code. Happiness and fear do not live in the same zip code. So you have to make a choice, a conscious choice. Where are you leaning? Well, sometimes I'm afraid and sometimes I'm not. Well, I get it. But there is a, when I say practice skill, there is a level of living where there is zero fear, no fear, absolutely none. No fear of the future, no fear of a person, no fear of a neighborhood, no fear. Even a speck of fear taints the water. If you have a gallon of water and you put 1 grain of sand in it, well, the water is already contaminated. So when I'm talking about happiness as a practice skill, some of that practice is to eliminate your fear. And how do you eliminate this deep-seated program of fear? How do you get rid of it? How do you let it go? How does that even happen? Is it even possible? Well, I say it is. There are a couple of things that I'm still afraid of. If you listen to the show, you know I live in the middle of a forest. I mean, I have trees surrounding me. It's a wall of trees in every angle. Well, there is one angle that, one way to get out, but surrounded. 75% I'm surrounded by trees. And I'll tell you something, when it gets dark in the forest at night, when it gets dark, I'm not going out there, not even with the flashlight. I'm still afraid of walking out in the forest in the middle of the night when it's dark. Now, the question becomes, do I want to get rid of that fear? Could I get rid of that fear? And the answer is yes. Yes, of course. I could do exercises and walk out for 5 seconds, next day walk out for 10 seconds, next day walk out until I get to 3 minutes. 6 years later, I'm 3 minutes walking outside. But of course you can get rid of your fear. Of course I could. But I'm okay with that fear of going outside in the middle of the forest right now. I digress. I'm getting off into another tangent. But fear sells, because fear, just like music, music unites. I mean, it doesn't matter what country you're coming from, or music unites. Music is a common thread. That's where you can see these people from the United States touring all over the world, and they've got huge audiences because music unites. And guess what? Fear is the same thing. Fear unites people too, because now you have something in common. Now you can normalize being afraid. Now you can say, oh, I'm afraid, and that's normal. I hope that makes sense. Getting back to fear. I'm asking you, why do you make decisions? How are your choices made? Are your decisions, is your behavior based on being afraid? Afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of being told no, afraid of whatever fear you want to throw in there. I mean, there's tons of them. It's like the spices to cook with. There are tons of different types of fear. And I'm just stating that because, the answers, when I talk about the answers, when I talk about what do you do, all of the answers can be found in the mirror. All of your answers are found in the mirror. What can you do? Is fear is your fear so uncomfortable you want to do something about it, or are you okay with living with it? Now, some people will say, yeah, I'm okay with living with it, but here is the rub. Living with fear, knowing that you're afraid, and especially when I'm talking about irrational, scratch that, I'm not even going to judge it irrational. I'm talking about all kinds of fear. Scratch the irrational. I'm talking about all kinds of fear, even from a small fear of a bug, fear of a spider. There are ways to eliminate, to lessen the fear. Are you actively, and especially knowing that the fear subtracts from your peace, subtracts from your happiness, are you actively doing something to eliminate your fear? Because for the most part, people just live with it, accept it, live with it until the fear becomes a part of who they are, until the fear becomes part of of a person's identity. And when fear is part of your identity, again, you can't. Fear and peace and happiness, they don't live in the same zip code. So it's the practice of recognizing what are your fears. In fact, that's the challenge. That's the homework assignment. I usually don't give homework assignments on the show, but I'm giving a homework assignment. What are your 10 top fears? And most people, a lot of people, their fears are in the future. The fear is in the future. The fear is tomorrow. And living with the fear in the future, living with the fear of tomorrow, you're just subtracting from your happiness right there. You might as well have a big bag of sand in your clear glass of water. How do we eliminate fear? Is it even possible? Some people, it's just natural. Well, there's a difference between fear of, I totally get the fear while cavemen were younger. When the cavemen were around and they feared animals, irrational fear, a fear that affects your survival. I totally get that. I got it. But I'm talking about the fears of tomorrow, the fears right now, and I fear what's going to happen tomorrow. The fears that's going to happen tomorrow. The fears that I just have them in my head. That topic of eliminating fears, when I say look in the mirror, it's what you can do. One of the solutions is ask for help. God, universe, spirit, energy source, higher power, whatever you want to call it. How do I eliminate my fear? Ask. Whatever you ask, you get an answer. How do I eliminate my fear? Well, one of the ways to eliminate fear is actively practicing, consciously asking for more trust. It's very simple. The reason why people fear is lack of trust. Period. That's it. When you build up your trust muscles, when you build up trusting, when you exercise your trust muscles every single moment of the day, guess what? Fear is just going to get moved out. You don't even have to give it an eviction. It's just there's not going to be any room for it. The problem is fear sells. Fear sells. Now let's get to sex. We all know that sex sells. Fine. Great. When I was younger, yes. Happiness, being happy, an achievement, an accomplishment, doesn't sell. Doesn't sell. So what do sex, fear, and dissatisfaction and happiness have in common? Nothing. The answer is nothing. When I say happiness, it's the same as having an internal peace. When I say happiness, it's the same as feeling that vibration of being content. Now, let's go back to dissatisfaction. Let's talk about satisfaction. You're either vibrating, we're all energy, and you're either vibrating a vibration of satisfaction or dissatisfaction in any moment, in any single moment. It's either you're vibrating satisfaction or you're not. Very simple. That vibration of dissatisfaction, that vibration of thinking that there's something else, there's something missing, I'm dissatisfied with this moment, I need more, I need more, I need more, where's more? I'm dissatisfied with this is not enough. That vibration subtracts from your happiness. Dissatisfaction sells. Dissatisfaction sells. Oh, and it sells like hotcakes. Shout out to all my Southern people out there, starting with my own Ralph Norrington. Dissatisfaction sells like hotcakes. You satisfied, guaranteed. It sells. Dissatisfaction sells. And the people that sell, advertising people, marketing people, they know what sells. You know the ads are the same. It's this big, what's your problem? Yes, identify with whatever your problem is. Do you want more? It usually goes to money. Do you want more money? Are you not making enough money? What about your relationships? Oh, your relationships suck. Oh, dissatisfaction sells. If you want to be happier, if you're seriously practicing and wanting and desiring and committed to, and you prioritize happiness, guess what? Satisfaction moves in. Dissatisfaction has to move out. Satisfaction, that vibration of satisfaction, means that every moment, everything that's happening, you've heard that everything happens for a reason. This is an orderly universe. Dissatisfaction sells. There's always I call it a carrot. I remember when I first moved here and moved in the middle of the forest, and I was so uncomfortable. It must have been months of discomfort only because brand new environment. Now my neighbors are wild animals. I'm a city girl living in the middle of the forest. It was every time I walked out, I was hopping, I was jumping, I was screaming. There was something out there that scared the hell out of me. Something I didn't grow up. I didn't grow up with wild animals in the backyard. What was my point? My point is that over time, with the practice, letting go of the fear I know my point. My point is the carrot. Listen, this plan that you're on, that I'm on, we're as different as our fingerprints. We all have our unique plan. We all have our unique destiny. We all have our unique journey. And this journey that we're all on is unique to us, unique to the individual. The universe wanted me here in the middle of the forest. If I'm not experiencing it, guess what? I'm not supposed to experience it. Whatever I'm supposed to experience, I experience it. And I'm in the middle of the forest, but how did they get me? How did the universe get me to the middle of the forest? Because while I was here, especially in the beginning months, I kept telling myself, if I would have known that I would have been frightened every time I walked. I know it might sound wacky, frightened every time I walked out of the house. If I would have known about the wild animals, if I would have known about the robins, the banging in the windows, there's probably about 10 things. If I would have known the maintenance on keeping up a property in the middle of the forest, there's so much work to do. It's not like living in the city at all. Bats. Need I go on? If I would have known any of that, my little egotistical brain would have never moved here. I said it so many times. But the universe's plan is different than my plan. And so there was a forced surrendering to the plan. And there was a forced surrendering and a gradual acceptance. When you give up and let go of what your plan is or what you want to do and just give it all the way up to God, guess what? More peace develops. More peace is to be had. More peace is to be experienced. This universal plan, is so much detail and so intricate, but it is the best plan for each individual. It's just an acknowledgement. Whatever you feel. Now, let's get back to the feeling of dissatisfaction. I'm getting off a little bit off track. The feeling of dissatisfaction means that there's something I want to change. There's something that needs to be changed. And with that, you can tell. You can tell outside of this, for people that are salespeople, sit down and especially if you're a salesperson listening to this podcast, sit down and ask. There are key things that salespeople play into when they want to sell something, from a car to a property to vitamin mix. You start by throwing out a little bit of fear. You start by throwing out a lot of dissatisfaction. You start by throwing out a lot. If it's some kind of sex product, woo! You got a money maker on your hands. And all I'm saying is just to be aware of it, just to be conscious of the fear, of the dissatisfaction, because neither one of those live in the same zip code as happiness. Which one is more valuable to you? We don't get awards. We don't get accolades. We don't get recognitions. We don't get an attaboy for being happy. No, we get, wow, she's happy. I wonder what water she's drinking. No, it's a practice. It's a committed practice. Now, what are some of the things? When I say happiness is a practice skill, it's like any other skill. It's a daily practice. And so my question to you is how or if you want to prioritize being happy. Prioritize. Last week when I talked about what is Kim Kardashian, what can Kim Kardashian teach us about happiness? The answer is everything. Because as I said in last week's show, this woman admitted at the end of the show last week, the finale 2, she said, I have everything. I mean, I've accomplished more than I could have ever dreamt of accomplishing, but I'm not happy. Now she's seeing someone because she wants to find more happiness. The practice, and it is a practice, is eliminating all the behaviors that subtract from happiness and practicing and cultivating the behaviors that add. Some of the behaviors that subtract from happiness, of course it's fear. Of course it's dissatisfaction. I'm not even going to get into the sex thing because, listen, there's so much surrounding that. I'm going to cop to it too, including whatever you were taught in your community, your parents, society. What are they teaching about sex now that it's really not that big? What? I mean, you can see the shift of the last 10 years, the last 20 years, the last 40 years. It's a huge shift. But where is the happiness? Where is it? People that get angry, argue, confrontational, always right, opinionated, judgmental, aren't happy. It's impossible. It's impossible. When I talk about happiness, it's how to experience more happiness in your life, eliminating the behaviors. Now let's see. How do you eliminate the behavior? How do you eliminate fear? It's going to be gradual. The other thing about how to experience more happiness is practicing patience. Patience with yourself. Patience with others. Acceptance of self. Acceptance of others. It's just pointing the finger at someone else, blaming someone else for how you're feeling. I'm afraid because it's time to grow up now. It's time to grow up. It's time to look in the mirror. It's time to say, what is my responsibility? What are my responsibilities? What are my responsibilities? What am I contributing to this planet? You can be happy. You can be at peace regardless of what happens to you. What happens to you has nothing to do with your peace and or your happiness. Nothing. I was watching a clip. Someone sent me a video of this young girl on, I might have said it last week too, on America's Got Talent. And she was in her 30s, and she was this cancer, and she looked like, she was very skinny. She looked like a skeleton. But this woman said, and she, cancer came back, but she's living her life. Who is talking about this? Who is sharing the story? Who has her on all of the, who is asking her how? Because one of the things that she said is, what happens to me has nothing to do with how me choosing happiness in every moment. The depending on something to happen so that you can be happy is just asked backwards, and it's not even the truth. Happiness doesn't come from what happens to you. Happiness is a internal set, foundational. I like to say temperature gauge. Your temperature gauge is set for peace, happiness, contentment, balance, relaxation, trust, letting go, being okay with uncertainty, acceptance of every moment. That's happiness. But who's practicing that? Who's talking about that? when I say what to learn, how to unlearn what you learned about happiness. Well, we all learned that if I get A, B, C, D, if I get the house, if I get the car, if I get the husband, if I get the family, if I can travel, if I have all this money, freedom, the money buys me freedom. No, freedom is a state of mind. Peace and happiness is a state of mind. It has nothing to do with the outside world at all. Nothing. That's why people are getting all these things. They have all these things, and they're still unhappy. Sex sells. Fear sells. Dissatisfaction sells. Happiness doesn't sell. even when it's the bargain rack. It's not very sexy, is it? I'm at peace. Doesn't sell. No, the drama sells, the back and forth sells, the fighting sells. All that sells. Peace, happiness doesn't sell. So my question to you is, you're going to be part of the herd? Are you a herd animal? Are you a herd animal? That's funny. Herd, H-E-R-D. Are you a herd animal? Are you following what everyone is following, or are you forging your own path and your path to peace? Are you practicing? Are you conscious? Are you self-aware? Are you even committed to prioritizing happiness? Only you can answer that, my dear audience. What does sex, fear, dissatisfaction, and happiness have in common? Nothing. Which one are you going to choose? Which one are you going to choose? The people that have everything, anyone will tell you. I don't care who you are, the Bill Gates, the Kim Kardashians, the Oprahs, they'll all tell you. I mean, I know it must be nice to not care about how much anything costs. But if the universe granted that to me and they say we're going to have to take away your peace and you're going to take away your practice, you can have it. Because I used to live that other way. I used to live thinking that something out there, a person, what I did was going to make me happy. That's a dark hole to live in. Constantly chasing, wanting happiness. But it's not there. It's an inside job. It's the job that it's looking in the mirror. What do I need to practice? How can I practice? What do I practice? Well, some of the behaviors that add to happiness are committing to it. I said that already. Surrendering to whatever's in the moment. Humbling your ego. Recognizing the difference between your ego talking and the universe talking. Recognizing the difference. Knowing yourself. Accepting yourself. Living consciously. Being aware of what you're saying, why you're saying it, your intentions. Being okay with uncertainty. Trusting, letting go of the illusion of control. Thinking that you can control something. No, the only thing that you can control, the only thing that you have power over is yourself. And how you choose to respond, what you choose to focus on, what you choose to talk about. Holding on to anger, holding on to hurt, keeping a grudge. How does that, if you're listening to this show and there's somebody in your life that you're not talking to, that you don't speak to, for whatever, I don't care whatever reason, unless somebody was physically harming you. I don't care what reason is, but just because you're angry, mad, it's time to sew up all those loose ends. It's time to let a lot of things go, or not. Hold on to it, but it's taking away from your happiness. Whew. Well, that's all we have for today. Reality Spirituality is heard every Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for listening. And The Truth About Happiness, Reality Spirituality, The Truth About Happiness, again, is heard every morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Did I say that twice? Yes, I did. My website is RebeccaNorrington.com. Follow me on Twitter at RLNorrington, LinkedIn, and I have an Instagram handle, Reality Spirituality. My YouTube, I have a few videos on YouTube. I know. Not inspired yet. I refuse to use that word procrastinating. I'm going to use the word I'm not inspired. Whee! My first book, Reality Spirituality, The Truth About Happiness, can be purchased on Amazon. And my second book, the one I'm writing now, Program for Unhappiness, is going to be out sometime this year. And until next time, my dear audience, until next week, I want you to remember who you are. You are a physical extension of the universe. You're always evolving. You're always changing. You're always growing. Love is patient, and love is kind. Be patient and be kind to yourself. Be your own best friend. Remember, you cannot have a happy ending to an unhappy journey. You cannot have a happy ending to an unhappy journey. It is about the journey. You've been listening to Reality Spirituality Radio with yours truly, Global Happiness Specialist, Rebecca L. Norrington. Thank you for listening. Have a conscious week. And remember, happiness is a practice skill. Your experience in every moment reflects on what you practice. Have a great week.
Oh, it's time to get real. Oh, yeah. It's a new experience. Reality Spirituality. Yeah, keep your ears open for this one, man. Reality Spirituality. You got a question for RLN? Reality Spirituality. Yeah, it's time to get some answers, baby.